Donald Trump has just delivered what he calls his final warning to Keir Starmer, and the fallout is already shaking Britain to its core. The outrage over taxpayer-funded luxury hotels for illegal migrants has exploded into a political firestorm, and this time it's not just angry citizens demanding answers. World leaders are now weighing in. The King of England himself has broken royal tradition, standing in shocking alignment with Donald Trump. What you're about to hear will change how you see British politics forever, because this is no longer about party politics or left versus right. This is about a government's very legitimacy crumbling in real time. Stay tuned, because the next few minutes will expose why this scandal is spiralling into the biggest political crisis in decades. 3 days ago, Donald Trump went on primetime television and unleashed what commentators are calling the most brutal political strike against a British Prime Minister in modern history. But now he's doubled down, this time with a final warning that has sent shockwaves through both Washington and London. With his signature thunderous delivery, Trump declared that no nation has the right to police the speech of Americans and no government should spend billions on those who entered illegally, while their own war heroes rot on the streets. His words landed like a hammer blow. For years, political debates between allies were wrapped in diplomatic niceties, filled with rehearsed statements and cautious language. Not this time. Trump cut straight through the pretense, painting Starmer as not just misguided, but dangerously out of touch with his own people. And here's the part that's causing panic in Downing Street. Trump's attack is backed by numbers that cannot be ignored. Government documents quietly leaked to the press reveal that over £1.2 billion is being funneled into luxury hotel accommodations for migrants, money that could have built thousands of permanent homes for British veterans. We're not talking about basic shelters, we're talking about 4-star hotels with spa services, ocean views and buffet meals, all paid for by ordinary taxpayers. The betrayal is so raw, so blatant, that even loyal Labour MPs are struggling to defend it. Meanwhile, veterans like James Patterson, a decorated Royal Marine who survived 3 tours in Afghanistan, are sleeping in cardboard boxes outside London fast food restaurants, begging for warmth in the freezing night air. The contrast is so morally outrageous that it feels less like a policy debate and more like a national disgrace. And this is where Trump's warning takes a deadly serious turn. In his follow-up statement, he warned that if Britain dares to enforce its Online Safety Act on American platforms, it won't just be a diplomatic disagreement, it will trigger economic consequences that could cripple Britain's already fragile post-Brexit economy. The message was crystal clear: comply with free speech or pay the price. Within hours, US officials confirmed that this wasn't just Trump speaking as a private citizen. The White House and the State Department have thrown their weight behind his words. For Starmer, the walls are closing in fast. He now faces simultaneous battles: a furious public outraged by his spending priorities, a foreign president calling him out on the global stage, and a constitutional monarch quietly taking Trump's side. And the most terrifying part? This crisis isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. Social media is ablaze with the hashtag #VeteransFirst dominating global platforms for days. Viral videos contrasting 5-star hotel suites with homeless veterans huddled in doorways are spreading faster than any Labour spin can contain. Every attempt by the government to explain the policy comes across as hollow, defensive, and morally bankrupt. For the first time in his leadership, Keir Starmer looks visibly shaken, cornered, and out of answers. If Trump's first strike was devastating, the second wave has been nothing short of catastrophic for Starmer's government. Just 48 hours after Trump's blistering speech, King Charles III stepped into the spotlight and shattered decades of royal neutrality with a statement so powerful that it has left Britain's political establishment reeling. At a veterans' charity gala, the King declared with unmistakable emphasis, "Those who have served this nation with honour and courage deserve our utmost respect, our deepest gratitude, and our care before all others." The room fell silent, but the message was deafening. This was not just a ceremonial nod to the armed forces. This was a direct moral rebuke to Starmer's policies, delivered with the full weight of royal authority. And make no mistake, every single word was carefully chosen. The emphasis on "before all others" was no accident. It was a deliberate shot across the bow, a signal that Britain's monarch was siding with Trump's critique. For Starmer, this is the nightmare scenario. When a foreign president attacks you, you can dismiss it as political theatre, but when your own king reinforces the same argument, when he subtly aligns himself with your loudest critic, you are no longer just facing opposition. You are facing a legitimacy crisis that no spin doctor can erase. Behind the walls of Buckingham Palace, insiders whisper that Charles has been furious about the veteran homelessness scandal for months. Senior courtiers describe him as deeply unsettled by the sight of servicemen sleeping rough, while the government spends millions on migrant accommodation. And now palace leaks confirm that the king has gone beyond words. He has been quietly funding emergency shelters out of his own fortune, stepping into the void where his government has failed. Imagine the optics. A monarch personally stepping in to save veterans, while the Prime Minister turns his back. It is a moral comparison so brutal that even Labour backbenchers are beginning to waver. The impact of the King's intervention has been immediate and explosive. Hashtags linking Trump and Charles are trending across Europe. Viral posts show the King's speech side by side with Trump's warnings, creating an image of unity that Starmer cannot possibly withstand. For the first time in modern British politics, the monarch and a foreign leader appear aligned against their own elected government, and the public is responding with unprecedented fury. Protests have erupted outside Parliament, with veterans groups leading marches demanding the government put veterans first. Banners comparing Starmer to a traitor hang over Westminster Bridge. Petitions demanding immediate housing reforms for veterans have gained hundreds of thousands of signatures overnight. And here's the most dangerous development for Starmer. The crisis has transcended left and right. Ordinary Labour voters, working-class families who have supported the party for generations are now questioning whether the government still represents British values. Inside Downing Street, panic is spreading like wildfire. Cabinet meetings have devolved into shouting matches. Senior ministers are openly questioning Starmer's judgment. Junior ministers are holding secret meetings to distance themselves from the Prime Minister's sinking ship. And opposition leaders smell blood in the water. Nigel Farage, never one to miss a political opening, has launched his Veterans First campaign, promising to end migrant hotel spending and redirect the funds to permanent veteran housing. His party, Reform UK, has surged in the polls, gaining 8 points in just 3 days. The political earthquake is underway, and its epicenter is Starmer's collapsing authority. Internationally, the crisis has become front-page news. From Washington to Canberra, world leaders are weighing in. Australia has expressed concern about British laws restricting online speech. Canada is questioning how the Online Safety Act might interfere with digital commerce. Even within the European Union, whispers are growing that Britain is drifting toward authoritarianism under Starmer's leadership. And yet, instead of calming the waters, every word Starmer utters seems to make things worse. His attempts to defend the migrant hotel policy sound tone-deaf and robotic. His defences of the Online Safety Act come across as authoritarian and arrogant. In Parliament, he has been visibly rattled, stumbling over answers and relying on pre-written notes while his opponents hammer him with moral outrage. But the breaking point came during Prime Minister's questions, when Conservative MP Sarah Henderson held up a photograph of James Patterson, the homeless veteran. The chamber fell into stunned silence as she demanded the Prime Minister explain why silencing American voices online was more important than giving a British hero a warm bed. The fallout from Trump's final warning and King Charles's shocking intervention has now ignited a full-blown revolt across Britain. What began as an explosive scandal over migrant hotels has spiralled into something much bigger. A crisis that threatens to bring down Keir Starmer's entire government. On the streets of London, Manchester and Birmingham, thousands are marching under the banner of #VeteransFirst. These are not fringe protests. They are massive, diverse crowds of ordinary citizens, veterans, and even families of serving soldiers. Their anger is raw and unified. Why is the government spending billions to house illegal migrants in luxury hotels, while British heroes sleep on freezing pavements? The chants echo through Parliament Square. Homes for heroes, not hotels for migrants. Police have been forced to close roads around Westminster as the crowds swell larger every day. Social media has become a battlefield, with viral videos showing heartbreaking images of veterans living in doorways, contrasted against glossy photos of hotel buffets and spa suites. These split-screen images are so damning, so morally devastating, that no amount of political spin can counter them. Even mainstream broadcasters, often accused of protecting the establishment, are being forced to cover the outrage because the story is simply too big to ignore. And it's not just public anger Starmer is facing. It's economic collapse. Trump's warning that the United States would not tolerate British censorship has already triggered chaos in the markets. American tech companies from Twitter to Meta to Reddit are holding emergency meetings. Several are preparing to relocate operations out of Britain to avoid the crushing penalties of the Online Safety Act. Investors are spooked, and British tech stocks are plummeting. Billions of pounds in value have been wiped from the markets in just days, sending shockwaves through the fragile post-Brexit economy. The long-awaited US-UK trade deal, hailed as a cornerstone of Britain's economic future, has been quietly shelved. American officials have made it clear. Until Britain rethinks its attempt to police American free speech, there will be no progress. For a government already struggling with inflation, energy crises, and stagnant wages, this economic blow could be fatal. Inside 10 Downing Street, sources describe an atmosphere of despair. Ministers who once stood loyally beside Starmer are now plotting their escape routes. 3 junior ministers have already requested private meetings with the Prime Minister, warning that his policies are becoming politically toxic. At least a dozen Labour MPs have signed a letter demanding an urgent review of migrant hotel spending, terrified of losing their seats in the next election. The once iron grip of Starmer's leadership is slipping away and fast. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and Reform UK are capitalising on the chaos. Their message is brutally simple: veterans first, migrants last. The polls show an unprecedented surge in their support, particularly among working-class voters who feel betrayed by Labour's priorities. For the first time in decades, the possibility of a new political force breaking the two-party system no longer looks impossible. The cracks in Labour's fortress are widening, and the timing could not be worse. Internationally, Britain's reputation is sinking into the mud. What was once a trusted voice of democracy is now being painted as a nation willing to crush free speech and abandon its own war heroes. From Washington to Canberra, headlines are brutal. Britain betrays its veterans. Free speech under siege in London. Allies are distancing themselves while adversaries quietly gloat. Russia and China are already exploiting the crisis, mocking Britain's hypocrisy on the world stage. And yet, through all of this, Starmer appears frozen, unable to act decisively. His speeches sound increasingly hollow, his expressions more strained. Insiders whisper that he spends hours locked away in private meetings, obsessing over political calculations instead of offering real solutions. He looks not like a leader in control, but like a man watching the walls close in around him. The betrayal of veterans has become the symbol of everything wrong with his leadership. Detached, arrogant, and morally tone-deaf. And the storm shows no signs of slowing. Every day brings new revelations, more leaked documents about ballooning hotel costs, more heartbreaking stories of veterans abandoned on the streets, more viral videos fueling public rage. The question is no longer whether Starmer can survive this scandal. The question is whether Britain can survive his leadership without tearing itself apart. The storm engulfing Starmer's government is now reaching heights no one could have imagined. What started as outrage over luxury migrant accommodations has morphed into a full-scale political and moral crisis that is shaking the very foundations of the United Kingdom. Inside the halls of Parliament, the panic is palpable. Starmer's once loyal ministers are now openly questioning him, leaking details of cabinet infighting to journalists, and warning that the government is on the verge of collapse. Senior MPs are quietly plotting a course to distance themselves from policies that have become toxic overnight. They fear being personally tarred by the moral outrage now sweeping the nation. The backlash isn't limited to the political class. Across social media, ordinary citizens are organising protests, fundraising for veterans' shelters, and sharing viral content that juxtaposes opulent migrant hotels with the stark reality faced by homeless ex-servicemen. These visuals, combined with Trump's scathing critiques and King Charles's subtle but unmistakable endorsement, have created a perfect storm, one that Starmer cannot spin, legislate, or ignore. The public is now questioning whether the Prime Minister is capable of moral leadership. Starmer's defenders argue about complexity and competing priorities, but those arguments are falling flat. No one cares about bureaucratic nuance when decorated soldiers are sleeping in cardboard boxes while the government pays thousands per night for hotels for illegal migrants. The moral contrast is so jarring it transcends political debate entirely. And the international fallout is equally catastrophic. Trump's statements have effectively internationalised Britain's domestic scandal. Allies are expressing concern about free speech restrictions under the Online Safety Act, while American tech giants scramble to comply or consider relocating operations entirely. The United States has made it clear Britain cannot expect a free pass when its digital laws infringe on American speech. Trade talks, once considered a cornerstone of post-Brexit recovery, are now in limbo. The economic implications are tangible and growing. Analysts predict that if the impasse continues, Britain could see billions of pounds in lost investment, stalled technology development, and further erosion of its already weakened global influence. In the political arena, opposition forces are seizing the moment with unprecedented ferocity. Nigel Farage and Reform UK are riding a wave of public anger, presenting themselves as the champions of veterans and freedom of speech. Their poll numbers are skyrocketing, particularly among working-class voters who once formed the bedrock of Labour support. Even within Labour itself, fissures are widening. Dozens of backbenchers are quietly rebelling, refusing to endorse Starmer's policies publicly, while seeking private assurances that they will not be blamed for the fallout. In practical terms, Starmer is facing a near-impossible balancing act: defend his government's spending and legislation or risk alienating both his party and the public. And the pressure is only intensifying. Each new report about veteran suffering, each viral social media post, and each statement from Trump or King Charles adds another layer of scrutiny, another nail in the coffin of his credibility. The visual narrative dominating every screen in Britain tells a story of failure and moral contradiction that cannot be ignored. Hotel buffets and spa suites for migrants versus cardboard boxes and frozen streets for heroes who risked life and limb for their country. For Starmer, this is more than political embarrassment. This is a full-scale legitimacy crisis, one where public trust, international reputation, and party loyalty are simultaneously collapsing. Meanwhile, the King's discreet interventions have further amplified the pressure. By quietly funding emergency shelters for veterans, Charles has sent a clear signal: the government's inaction is unacceptable, and moral leadership cannot be deferred. The symbolic weight of a monarch acting where the elected government fails cannot be overstated. Every night, as Britain watches the unfolding scandal, citizens are left asking the same question. If a foreign president and the King of England both call out a prime minister, who is left to defend him? The answer is chilling: no one. Starmer is increasingly isolated, caught between a scandal he cannot contain, a party that questions his judgment, and a public that is demanding accountability in real time. And make no mistake, this is just the beginning. The next wave of revelations, protests, and international pressure promises to escalate even further. The political earthquake rocking Britain shows no signs of slowing, and at its epicenter stands a prime minister who appears increasingly cornered, increasingly defensive, and increasingly alone.